Attitudes about the police, how one event can change the views of the people they are supposed to protect. The following quotes are taken directly from sources cited at the end of our presentation. The titles of the slides directly correspond with their respective sources. After the shooting death of Michael Brown, the United States Department of Justice investigation report, quote, revealed a pattern or practice of unlawful conduct within the Ferguson Police Department that violated the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution and federal statutory law, unquote. One of the officers interviewed in this Time magazine article said that some of the police officers in his precinct were turned off by the negative ways the media was portraying the force after the shooting of Michael Brown. He says that they only report to radio calls to lessen the number of interactions with the public, since police officers are constantly being recorded and their actions scrutinized. In response to cell phone footage of police officers being released by the public, thousands of departments around the U.S. are beginning to use body cams, which will assure a video record of an entire encounter, not just a physical scramble captured on bystanders' cell phones. Although various police behaviors have been called into question, the use of excessive force epitomizes the tensions between minority citizens and the police. The use of force may be judged proper or excessive depending on whether it is necessary and justified to accomplish a legitimate police duty. It is excessive physical force that most clearly defines police brutality from the standpoint of the law. Citizens apply the term police brutality rather loosely to practices such as unnecessary searches and abusive language. These are examples of police misconduct. There are two hypotheses that explain the relationship between race and police brutality. They are the community accountability hypothesis and the threat hypothesis. The community accountability hypothesis suggests that formal and informal characteristics of police departments foster police minority tensions and promote police violence, a viewpoint that underlies prominent policy proposals to reduce police brutality. The threat hypothesis, grounded in the conflict theory, maintains that the presence of threatening minorities predicts the use of coercive crime control mechanisms which help maintain existing social order. These tensions stem, inevitably, from enduring ethnic and racial tensions in American society. The International Association of Chiefs of Police was founded in 1893 to provide guidelines for police safety. The broad mandate of police officer involves many different functions including crime fighter, order maintenance and peacekeeper, service delivery, problem solver, and dispenser of force. All these roles produces definitions of police work that are not consistent and presents a significant challenge to understanding police work as a whole. Police recruit training is organizationally based pre-service training that emphasizes law, rules, and procedures and officer discipline. For these reasons, this is why the Department of Justice investigated the Ferguson Police Department. These poll results were in response to police presence during the Ferguson protests and riots. The results of the study found that it is actually informal police contacts with residents of a town or city that lead to a more positive perception about the police. They found that the media does not affect residents' approval of police job performance or their perception of officers' demeanor. President Obama charged the task force with identifying best practices and offering recommendations on how policing practices can promote effective crime reduction while building public trust. The stop-and-frisk tactic was employed exhaustively but not evenly in New York City. Since 2002, there have been more than 500 million stops.
One of the major perceptions is that disorder crime had no direct impact on the people's perception of police performance when dealing with order maintenance. However, instances of disorder crime did directly impact people's perceptions on how much disorder there is in an actual area. What separates police from the common citizen is that when faced with certain situations, police are legally allowed to use physical force. However, in terms of solving or controlling issues, physical force is oftentimes not a popular solution. Public opinion of police are shaped by a multitude of factors, one of which being the actual strain that police officers face when serving in different neighborhoods, another being the disadvantage of certain neighborhoods where they serve. This is caused by multiple things, one of which being that the high levels of dissatisfaction with police is definitely concentrated in disadvantaged neighborhoods. However, public perception of police is not all bad. One of the major things that people take into account when dealing with a police encounter is whether or not the policeman that they are dealing with appears committed to the job. If they are, the encounter is generally considered positive. Public satisfaction is also shaped by multiple things, one of which by how well the people see the police perform their job, whether or not the police are viewed as legitimate, and whether or not the use of fair procedures by the police is seen by the citizens. At Wilkes University, where we completed our project, the students had an overwhelmingly positive support for the police. This is seen through the comments and responses that are on this slide, some of which include the media is biased, and I have a lot of respect for police. Sure, I hate to get pulled over, but then again, I shouldn't speed. The largest body of research when dealing with public confidence in the police is for demographic variations in public confidence, rather than the character and dimensions. This was spurred after the deaths of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and Eric Garner in New York. When involved in a police-initiated encounter, citizens are more likely to be more focused on the procedural justice aspects, rather than how they believe the police actually performed the jobs that they are assigned. When police are involved in a shooting, the increased anxiety does not affect their distance perception. However, it does affect how close they believe that the perceived threat is. This will cause them to engage the threat at an earlier stage. When dealing with police brutality, perceived excessive use of force is more important than the actual use of the force itself. When perceived excessive use of force is seen, the overall satisfaction with police decreases. Another thing to remember with police misconduct is that police are people, they're human beings, and they're hired by the public to do a rather forceful job. This can cause people to be upset with what's going on with the police, and other people to be more than happy to just keep the status quo. The newspaper article with the quote on the previous slide is explaining what the police are for, and why they're there, why the public wanted them in the first place. But it's also serving as an example, because in the article, there is a police misconduct hearing where 2 officers were sentenced to many years in prison. One of the major sources of problems for police officers is the police organization itself, where the majority of their programs are focused around an officer-involved shooting or a car chase. Very few of them are actually focused on the everyday struggles of an officer, where all they want to do is just get home to their family. One of the major shifts that has happened with police encounters today is the shift from evidence and objective-based encounters with the police-citizen interaction that have been replaced with citizen and self-reported perceptions, which can be changed by the psychology of the individual rather than what actually happened in the encounter. One of the major perceptions is that disorder crime had no direct impact on the people's perception of police performance when dealing with order maintenance. However, instances of disorder crime did directly impact people's perceptions on how much disorder there is in an actual area.